In this video, I will go over a couple of things. Number one is a couple of updates on the basics of the PPP loan. Now, keep in mind, the reason that there's so many updates and there's so much going on is because when the law was passed, the mechanics were just not available. It takes time to develop mechanics, and we're working with a very short timeline, so it's understandable that there's lack of clarity, that there is a lot of confusion going on and all of that. So I'm going to do my best to describe the most recent information in plain English. But keep in mind that this could change tomorrow and I'll have to record new videos based on new information. So just want you to be aware of that. So the covered period for the look back of forgiveness sort of is the 8 weeks, and it starts on the day that you get cash in your bank. It may be around 1, it may be around 2, around 3, whatever it's going to be. The 8-week period starts on that day. Now, there are a couple of uncertainties related to the fact that, let's say, you could apply for this loan and get this loan in June, but you sort of by law have to use the money by June 30th. And that's not 8 weeks. So there is still a lot of kind of details that we're waiting for from the SBA. So just keep that in mind. Now, costs eligible for forgiveness. And I want to say that you should take this with a grain of salt because this may again change tomorrow. Costs eligible for forgiveness include payroll costs, and those include the following: salary, commission, wages, tips that, let's say, waiters receive or delivery folks receive. Also, it includes vacation pay and, very important, severance pay. So if you decided that, you're closing doors or you're downsizing or whatever it is you're doing, you're letting people go, but you want to take care of them as well, you're giving them severance pay, that expense counts as payroll costs for the purposes of the PPP loan forgiveness feature. Okay, now there is a cap of $100,000 of salary per employee. What that means is employees who make over $100,000 are capped. Their forgiveness for their salaries is capped at $100,000 per year. Now, that is only for gross payroll, which means benefits like health insurance, other group health benefits like dental, whatever benefits you provide, 401k match, are additional. So if someone is receiving $120,000, they're capped at $100,000, but their payment for their health insurance and so on is added on top of that so that you can use that money and potentially it will be forgiven. Now, for partners in a partnerships, like I said before, active partners, so partners whose share of income from the partnership is subject to self-employment tax, those amounts are also eligible. Same thing applies, $100K per partner limit. All right, now the important thing to keep in mind is that in the 8 weeks after the date of funding, after you receive funds into your bank account, you will pay like rent, utilities, whatever it is, and you will then apply for forgiveness. But keep in mind that the rent and utilities and all the other stuff cannot be more than 25% of the loan amount. The law is pretty clear right now. It may change, but it's pretty clear right now on that. Now, there is a provision in the initial versions of the law and the interpretation of it that debt incurred prior to February 15th by the business debt, so loans, line of credit, whatever, interest on that debt is also considered to be an eligible cost. However, that specific item is missing from the final list. So in the same document, in one place it is present and in the next place it's absent. So there will be more clarification on that. And keep in mind that that cost, that interest, is still within the 25% of loan. That limit still applies, okay? Now, what I do recommend doing, and this is important because you want to ensure that your loan gets forgiven and you want to minimize the errors and so on. I recommend setting up a block of accounts with, let's say, some numbers. Typically, accounts in QuickBooks have numbers. Most businesses don't use them, some do. But a block of accounts, let's say an account, PPP loan expenditures or whatever, loan disbursements, and then sub-accounts, PPP payroll, PPP rent, so that it's a separate section on your profit and loss in your QuickBooks so that it's easy for you to later trace it back and make sure that you have records to support when the bank asks for it. This is very important. So I advise you to do that if and when you get the funds for the PPP program. All right, this is everything I've got for this section. There's one more section and I left it for last because it's the most confusing one. It's the forgiveness options and features and things. So let's move on to that one.